Let's give it up for Candace. While we're at it, let's give it up for our next gen team, right? Let's give it up for me dropping the iPad when I came through the little behind the seat. Yeah, do that. Thank you for that. No, but I loved what he said there. He says, Jesus shows up in everything we do. We don't always have to do something big to make a big impact. And throughout the summer, we've been learning how to live it out for Jesus, discovering what it means to look, live, act, behave like Jesus. And check this out, even in the small things. So kids, listen up. I want you to do this for me. Write a Dear God letter telling him all the things that you've learned this summer. Dear God letter telling him all the things that you've learned this summer. And maybe it was about worship. We've been learning about worship. Maybe it was about the ways we've learned every week to serve one another through prayer, through teaching one another, and through caring one another. So take a few moments. I want you to work on your Dear God letter as I speak to the parents. As I said, all summer long, parents, we've been learning what it means, what it looks like to live it out for Jesus. Really helping your kids understand, what is my calling as a kid? What is my calling as a kid? And I want to share a verse with you God gave me a few weeks ago, and I think it does a great job of connecting what the goal here is for parents tonight. It's Ephesians 4. It says, I therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called. And I want to spend just a few moments tonight talking about the calling that you have received as a parent or a parental figure, and how we can walk that out biblically. And when I say parent, I don't just mean biological moms and dads. I'm talking grandparents, step-parents, foster parents, adoptive parents, guardians, anyone who's taken on that role of raising and loving and guiding a child. Because let's be honest, family doesn't always mean blood, does it? And sometimes the best parenting comes from people who chose to step in and take a position that they didn't have to. And if you've taken on that responsibility, whether it's full-time, part-time, or through spiritual mentorship, this is what I want you to know. You've accepted a sacred calling. Say sacred. Sacred calling. It's not just about providing clothes and food and rides to practice. Listen to me, church. Parenting isn't just about raising good moral kids, but raising God-filled kids. That's the goal. Because if I can get God in them, then the fruit of the Spirit will be evident in every part of their life. So this is what I want us to toss around tonight. What would it look like? What does it look like for a parent to truly step into the role and honor the calling that God has given us as a parent? So I want us to answer this question before you leave tonight. You're going to know this. What does the Bible say about the parent's calling? What does the Bible say about the parent's calling? And let's just walk through it together. We're not going to look at it as people trying to be perfect, but as people trying to be faithful to what God has given us. And let me share the points that I'm going to share tonight. I struggle with every single one of those in my family, okay? I'm not the most qualified to be up here. My family struggles with these, but God uses the least of these, right, to work on the greatest of these. So I'm teaching you as someone who needs to understand and learn and do better at this, okay? So the first point I want to make is this. Parents are called to train, not entertain. Parents are called to train, not entertain. Parenting isn't just about keeping kids busy or happy. God didn't just call us to be their child's activity director, but how many of you, including me, feel like that sometimes, right? Run them around. He called them to be their spiritual coach, their teacher, and their guide. And this is why, because entertainment keeps kids busy for the moment, where training prepares them for the mission. And I know it's easy in today's culture to hand over a screen or a schedule or even a sport and just say, that's parenting. But kids don't need more distractions. They need more direction. They don't need more distractions. And our true calling is deeper, which is to intentionally shape hearts and not just fill the time. Let's look at it in Proverbs 22:6. It says, train up a child the way he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. It's a popular verse, isn't it? I'm sure you've heard of it. It's easy to quote, but it's hard to live it out. I said it like this. You can't expect them to stay on a path you never train them to walk. Training means showing them how to pray, how to forgive, how to handle failure, and how to love others like Jesus did. It's not always flashy. It's not the cool, hip thing to do, but it's always fruitful. And I want to give you 3 primary ways to train. You can write these down if you like. I'm sure you got your hands full as it is. But the first one right here is vision. Start training with the end in mind, because if you don't have a vision for your kids, the world will gladly give them one. Proverbs 29:18 says, where there is no vision, the people perish. And it's true for parenting too. We've got to look past the sleepless nights, the eye rolls, the tantrums, and see, who has God called my child to be? Vision means parenting them towards a future they don't yet see, speaking a destiny into them that they don't yet believe, and preparing them for a battle that they don't even know is coming. We're not just raising a child, we're preparing a man, we're shaping a woman, we're training a future husband and wife and missionary and pastor and coach and warrior. And that's because training requires vision. The second way to train is with correction and consequence, because training isn't just encouragement, it's correction. And we see this in Hebrews 12:11. It says, no discipline is enjoyable while it is happening. It's painful. But afterward, there will be a peaceful harvest of right living for those who are trained in this way. You know, we live in a world that says discipline is harsh, but true love, it doesn't ignore sin, does it? It doesn't just sweep bad behavior under the rug. It addresses it. And not only does it address it, but it corrects it. And you correct because you care. Check this out. Consequence isn't punishment, it's just preparation. It teaches responsibility, it teaches self-control, and it teaches wisdom. So don't be afraid to say no, to set standards, to follow through. Consistent correction is part of training. They won't thank you now, but you'll thank yourself later on in life because of it. That's because correction and consequence must be trained. The third way to train is to model what you expect. Modeling what you expect is understanding that you are the loudest sermon your child will ever hear. That means this right here. Training isn't just instruction, it's imitation. Training isn't just instruction, it's imitation. They're watching how you talk about your boss at the dinner table. They're watching how you react when life does not go your way. They're watching how you speak to your spouse. Because more than your lectures, your life is training them. More than your lectures, your life is training them. I can't teach them patience when they see me blow up in traffic. I can't teach them integrity if they catch me lying in front of others and cutting corners constantly. You know, Jesus said it in Luke 6:40 right here. Students are not greater than their teacher, but the student who is fully trained will be like the teacher. Fully trained means this isn't a part-time gig, but yet so often I treat it that way. But I can't do part-time parenting and expect full-time results. That's because we got to model what we expect. The second calling I want us to look at is this. This is a difficult one. Parents are called to treasure, not just tolerate. You know, we live in a culture that looks at children as an inconvenience, a financial strain, a barrier to personal freedom. And God's word boldly declares the opposite, that children are a reward and a blessing. We see it right here in Psalm 127, 3-5. Children are a gift. Say gift. Gift from the Lord. They are a reward for him. Children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hands. How joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. God entrusts parents with eternal souls, not just to feed them, not to clothe them, but to shape, sharpen, and launch them like arrows into God's purpose, into the world for his purpose. This is good right here. I'm just going to say it. They are not interruptions to your calling. They are the reason for your calling. I want to pull a few call-ins from this verse real quick, and the first that I see that comes to mind is stewardship. The verse begins with, children are a gift from the Lord. That means they didn't come from us, they don't belong to us, they belong to Him. I am not an owner, I'm a steward. And as steward, it's not my job to shape them into my image, but His image. They are not my personal project, they are God's creation, entrusted into our care for a very short period of time. Stewardship means this: I answer to God for how I raise them, how I teach them, discipline, encourage, and model the faith for them. If they are a gift from Him, then every decision I make should honor the one who gave them to me. We also see spiritual formation. Verse 4 says, children born to a young man are like arrows in a warrior's hands. Arrows don't sharpen themselves. They don't aim themselves. A warrior has to work the arrow countlessly and tirelessly, straighten it and balance it so it'd be ready to fly. And that's our calling as parents, to shape their hearts, to sharpen their minds, to align their lives with God's truth so they'll be prepared for the spiritual battle they're going to face. We can't just hand them a bow at 18 and hope maybe one day they'll hit the target. We prepare them now, teaching prayer, forgiveness, resilience, and courage. The third thing I see there is legacy. The psalm ends with this: how joyful is the man whose quiver is full of them. It's a legacy statement. The joy isn't just in raising the children, it's seeing them launched into God's purpose. Think about it. Your most significant contribution to the kingdom of God may not be a career, it may not be a title you carry, it might not be a personal achievement, it'll be a child you raise who grows up knowing how to serve God faithfully, and that impacts thousands of lives that you and I will never even meet. That's legacy. Legacy isn't about what you leave behind, it's about who you send ahead. The third calling that I want us to look at is this right here. Parents are called to disciple, not delegate. That's a tough one. Parenting isn't just about making sure your kids get to church, it's about making sure church gets into your kids. And God never intended the primary spiritual training of your children to be handed off to someone else, not even the church. I said it like this: the church can equip, but it cannot replace the calling God has placed on you as their parent. Discipleship is meant to happen every day. The breakfast table, the car, before bed, in the middle of life's ordinary moments, that's where they see us faithfully following God. That's because your home is the first classroom of faith, and you are your child's first pastor. So make sure the gospel is louder in your living room than it is from this platform on Sunday mornings. Let's look at it in Deuteronomy 6. This is all biblical here. And you must commit yourself wholeheartedly to these commands I'm giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Say again and again. Talk about them when you're at home. Say at home. On the road. Going to bed. Getting up. I said it like this, church. If you want God in their future, you need to consistently put Him in their childhood. Discipling your children means showing them how to love God, how to read His Word, how to live it out, and simply how to pass it on. It's not always convenient, but it's always eternal. You know, the most influential, the greatest example of faith that I had in my life did not come from the title pastor, it came from the title parent, right? That's the impact he had on me. It wasn't about what he said, it's by the way he walked. You know, growing up in Virginia, one of my favorite seasons happened in something called winter. I'll try to explain that to you Floridians, but it happens after fall. Well, that's not going to help you either. November to February, we have that here. We'll just go with that. And so it happens when it gets really cold outside. And there was this foreign white substance that would fall. It's called snow, for those that didn't know. It's called snow. And I knew every time that it would snow that my dad and I were going to go hunting. Had a farm just right around the corner. And that day in particular, it snowed, and it must have been about a foot. So we jumped in the truck, and we take off to the little farm there, and we get out, and I'm full of excitement. I jump out of the truck, and I'm met with snow up to my knees. And shortly after that, I fall on my behind. And I remember Dad looked at me and said, "Son, this is going to be difficult, but you're going to have to follow behind me. You're going to have to follow behind me." So he started walking, and as you can imagine, his legs much longer than mine, his strides were much wider than mine. And I remember falling and slipping and trying to stretch my little legs to match his footsteps. And if someone had seen me, they probably would have laughed, because I'm sure I looked pretty ridiculous. But in that moment, I didn't care, because one thing you couldn't deny, as a son, it was my heart's desire to follow in my father's footsteps. That's because the way we walk as parents matter. Our kids want to follow our parents' footsteps. And though his walk was messy at times, I'm so blessed that those footsteps led me being here with you tonight. This is the truth, parents. Your kids don't need you to be perfect. They just need you to be present. You don't have to have all the right answers. They just need to see you walking after God, walking in His direction, so when the path gets rough, they'll remember your footsteps and the path that they should follow. So at this time, I want to be very intentional about where we go from here. I'm going to challenge you. First and foremost, give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. If you're like my family and struggle about what we talked about tonight, it's okay. Hopefully these next steps, that's what they're here for, is to help you close that gap. So here's the goal right here. For you to leave here tonight, not just saying that was decent content, a pretty good message at best, but for you to see that us, your next gen team, your church, are investing in your kids, teaching them why and how to worship and how to live it out for Jesus. But more than that, it's for you to step into the calling God has for each of you as parents and say, as for me and my house, we will serve the Lord. To say, I'm going to make a priority the way that I walk, that it'll honor the calling that I have received. So we've created a few different ways for you as a family to respond tonight, not just individuals, but together. The first thing I want you to do is this. In your activity packet, you'll find a card with a fridge magnet attached. And I want you to take a minute and answer this question together. What are 3 things that we can commit to doing as a family over the next 30 days? Honestly, answer this question. Maybe it's praying before school. Maybe it's eating dinner with no phones, or not missing church this month. Whatever that looks like for you. You know, there's some ideas beside the screen, and they're there to help you connect your family with God. How many of you know that they were never meant to be 2 separate buckets? They were meant to be done in unity. And so what I want you to do is I want to challenge you to take that home, put that on your fridge. And if you will do that, if you'll commit to it, I know that God will be faithful to bless it, to honor it, and it'll be fruitful in your house. And next, I want to invite you to this cross right here. It's powerful for you to have something to take home as a reminder, right, of the commitments you've made to God. This is what I'm going to do. But it's also powerful for you to leave something here. Because I know, like my family, we walked in tonight carrying things that I don't want taken back into my home. I want to leave it at the cross. And so on the tables beside the cross, you're going to find a pen, thumbtack, and a black light, and a pen, a thumbtack, and a sticky pad. And I want you to take a moment as a family and write something down. Hear me out here. Write something down that you want to release to God tonight. This is something we want to leave here. Maybe it's unforgiveness. Maybe it's anxiety. Maybe it's fear about the future, or a habit you know God is saying, as a family, we need to lay this down. Maybe it's a lie you've been believing about your identity, a burden you've been carrying too long. So we're going to take a few moments. We're going to worship. We're going to come to the cross, pray, and respond to the calling that God has given us. And after that, we'd love the opportunity. Our team is going to be standing on each side of the cross right here. We'd love the opportunity just to pray over you, speak blessings over your home and your family. Amen.